That is the final whistle at Selhurst Park. It has finished. Crystal Palace 2, West Ham United 3. The score really not representing what we've seen for the last 96 or 97 minutes on the pitch. The Hammers, absolutely fantastic tonight, teaching Palace a footballing lesson, and a win, wait for it, a win that takes West Ham up to 4th in the Premier League, above reigning champions Liverpool. Might only be for 24 hours, but who cares? We're there on merits now after 20 games in the season as well. West Ham up to 35 points from 20 games. The goals coming as early as the 3rd minute, the opening goal coming from Wilfried Zaha for Palace, scoring with the very first attack of the game after 2 minutes and 46 seconds to be precise. West Ham only behind for 6 minutes, however, as Thomas Souček nodded home and Michail Antonio crossed at the near post to level the scores. The Hammers taking the lead for the first time in the game on 25 minutes when a deep Aaron Cresswell free kick found Souček at the far post. We had a little bit of a VAR check to see if the people at Stockley Park could call the goal out or cancel it for some reason. They couldn't find a reason. It stood, and that's how it stood at the half-time interval. West Ham 2-1 ahead. The Hammers going further ahead later in the game. And I can't find it on my sheet, but there was a 3rd goal anyway. I'm terrible. These notes are terrible. Like they've been written by a 5-year-old. Look at the state of this. Anyway, West Ham did go 3-1 up. And of course, Palace scoring in the 7th minute of added on time to add a little bit of respectability to the scoreline that, in truth, they never really deserved. West Ham up to 4th in the Premier League. Scenes, incredible stuff, Rio, for West Ham. Your initial post-match thoughts, please.
Let's take that goal at the end, took a gloss off of what has been one of the best performances we've seen for months, to be honest. We started really slowly, made a terrible error, but we rebounded, and it wouldn't be remiss of me to say that a 7 or 8-1 victory would have been the order of the day. We really did deserve it. We played some fantastic free-flowing football. Yeah. We defended resolutely. We made some so-called classy players look incredibly ordinary tonight. It's just a magnificent performance. I can't fault any single player of ours. We defended, defended resolutely. Dawson and Ogbonna were superb in the middle. Kufal was a magnificent all game. Every one of our midfield players contributed and looked threatening. And Mikel, with a little bit of luck and his shooting boots on, could have easily notched a hat-trick. I'd say 7-1, 8-1 wouldn't have flattered us. Fair play to Palace, that goal at the end, nice with the work move, but that was after Lord Mayor's show, wasn't it? It's just a cursory kind of nod to the fact that there's actually in the game.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Rio. Gnome, over to you. Your thoughts on the final whistle of what you've just witnessed here this evening?
Yeah, Rio summed it up perfectly, I think. If we got a decent score, like 7-1, wouldn't have flattered us at all. There was a little shot towards the end of the game of Antonio in his seat in the stand, looking very cheesed off with himself, because he won't have a better chance of getting a hat trick in a game, unless we play Norwich again. And so he looked a little bit sort of, how the hell didn't I score in that game? You could tell what was going through his mind. We have, as Rio said, we've battered them. That scoreline doesn't reflect it. Does reflect a little bit what we've been saying. We need to be switched on for the whole 95, 96 minutes, and not just the bits in between, the first couple of minutes either side at the beginning and at the end. But if Palace had got anything out of that game, it would have been a travesty. And long may that continue.
Yeah, very, very much so. The third goal, West Ham's third goal, of course, coming from Craig Dawson in the 65th minute, that I'd neglected to write down on my notes.
Everyone else knew that, Graham.
For anyone who wasn't watching the game anyway, there you go. And West Ham did, of course, hit the post a couple of times as well. Michail Antonio on both occasions with the shots in the 27th and 39th minutes. As Gnome says, we could have been even further ahead. And as Lawrence Salmon says on the YouTube live chat, the post played very well for Crystal Palace tonight. Indeed, it did. Probably their best player. Mr. Palermo, Crystal Palace 2, West Ham United 3. The Hammers up to 4th in the Premier League. What's going on?
Well, let's just look at that league table, shall we? In 13th place, Crystal Palace with a lowly 23 points. In 11th place, Arsenal Football Club, the Bank of England club, self-styled, with 27 points. In 9th place, Chelsea. Yeah. Well, West London and all that, you'd think they'd have a bit of class, but seemingly not. 29 points. In 6th place, and I'm struggling now, is Tottenham Hotspur, 33 points. Oh, look, in 4th place, the top team in London, West Ham United, played 20, won 10, drawn 5, lost 5, 35 points, and 11 from 15 run of form. You can't ask for more than that, can you? And we certainly couldn't tonight, because I thought at times tonight we were a fraction short of sensational at times. Not quite sensational, but very, very good tonight, and playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of team spirit. I mean, you asked me earlier what's changed. I think there's a real team spirit there tonight that highlighted Crystal Palace's lack of team spirit, really, and lack of collectiveness. We're seeing that in 1 or 2 clubs recently, but not at West Ham United. So whatever the manager and coaching staff are doing, they're doing it well. And we saw a little glimpse of it at the end there. When Mark Noble came on, we all know where Nobes is in his career. Nobes knows where he is in his career. They've just started the kind of like the farewell stuff on the official site kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when he comes on, young Declan Rice, clearly the star player in our starting 11 these days. The one top draw English asset that we've got, dare I say it, without offending any of our Irish supporters. Doesn't hesitate, hands in the captain's armband, doffs the cap, so to speak. Little things like that really matter in terms of a team spirit and so forth. And I thought we were really good tonight. We battered Crystal Palace. We were first to the ball many, many times. Yep. Second balls, we won the challenges. We were aggressive when they were passive. We ran hard when they were jogging. We saw real application from our team tonight and a desire to win. And you win again. Dare I say it? What did David Moyes say? Winning, it's what I do. Mm-hmm. People actually poked fun at him for that. There you go. 4th spot. You can't argue with it. Well played, West Ham. Really good tonight.
Yeah, they may have poked fun of him, but no one's laughing now looking at West Ham and just looking ahead. Just wondering how far this way. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Rio, here, but just how good a season could this be now?
It's a strange one, isn't it? We've seen all season results not go to form all across the league. The absence of fans has made a huge difference to things.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's impossible. Who would have thought at the start of the season, after that turgid performance at home to Newcastle, we looked threadbare, devoid of ideas, devoid of class at times. That how many games is it now? Another 19 games later, we're sitting pretty in 4th place. We're 5 points from safety. But we look so well drilled as a unit, so compact at the back. We attack with free-flowing intent. We've got creative players all over the place. We're still lacking a striker. I think with a proper striker, we could be top. That. Yeah. If we had a natural finisher, we could easily be top. It's just unreal, isn't it? In a season where a lot of things have just gone against the grain completely, I'm not putting anything beyond this club, because at the moment we look so full of confidence, so together as a unit, that dare I dream, dare I regress into my 14-year-old self, like the days of 1985, 86, where I'm thinking we can win the league. I never thought I'd ever say it again. Here I am, looking at the way we're performing over the last few games, looking at the league table, thinking, bloody hell, we could do this. And we could. A little bit of luck steering clear of injuries. You know, nothing is impossible. It's on. The double's on.
There you go. That's Rio's verdict. Anything's possible. And, you know, I make you absolutely right, Rio. In this season, we've seen some bizarre results, some bizarre performances, and who knows? Gnome, let's... should we be a bit more realistic? You know, could we qualify for Europe this year? Could we make the Champions League? Could we win the bloody league? What do you think?
I think, listen, bitter experience tells us that no matter how good things get, something silly is always just around the corner with West Ham. So I don't think of all the clubs in the top 6, 7, or 8. I think our supporters are the ones who are the least likely to get carried away at this point. I think Rio summed it up beautifully by pointing out that another 5 points and we'll probably be safe from relegation. And that's the sort of, sort of self-deprecating humour, if you like. But let's just ride the wave, see how far it takes us. It'd be interesting to see what David Moyes had to say, but unfortunately, BT have gone straight to the West Man City, West Brom, or West Brom Man City, whichever way round, and not Wolves game. So I've been scouring around to see if there's any sort of interview online, but let's just ride it. I think. We're top 4 for tonight. Liverpool and Spurs play tomorrow, and depending on the result of them, one of those will probably sneak above us for the time being. But hey, it's nice while it's there, though. We're definitely going to be in the sort of upper echelons of the league. Let's just carry on playing as we are. Let everybody underestimate us and see what happens at the end.
Yeah, okay. Good stuff. Pinky, best performance of the season so far, perhaps?
Difficult one, because you've got to factor in the calibre of the opposition. Certainly one of the more attractive ones on the eye, and just to emphasise the improvement. After 19 games last season, Liverpool Football Club were 33 points ahead of West Ham, something like that. They're now behind us in the league table. It's just we've become an awful lot better, and 1 or 2 teams aren't quite performing where you might think they would. So just to go back to what you say, how far can we go here? I don't think we're going to win the league. I don't think Rio does. I don't think Gordon does. I'm sure as shit don't think you do either. But I've been sticking around the 7th spot all season, saying, you know what, it'll be 7th or 8th. 6th or even 5th isn't beyond the wit of man. It really isn't. It'll hinge on a couple of games, but it's not impossible. And we'll come back to the old story of, can we get a striker in? Will the chairman actually be brave enough to open the checkbook again and say, we'll get somebody in to try and get us those goals that will just make the difference? Because, okay, we had a difficult start tonight, but, you've got to be honest, that's all Palace had, was an opening 2 minutes. So for my money, we could still climb the table, over a sustained period, maybe 6th, maybe 5th, something of that nature. one thing I'm absolutely clear on, we should try to be the very best we can be. And the chairman really should be getting his checkbook out, because I think David Moyes has earned that. I think he's earned enough to say, do you know what? Show me the bad signings I've made. Show me the bad players I've asked you to spend some money on. So for me, I think Palace were poor tonight. So I'm not sure it was our absolute best performance of the season. But there were times tonight, dare I say it, we were playing some sexy football, you know, and playing with real confidence. And that's not something I've seen in a West Ham team for 20 years. Okay, we all go about the Payet season, all that, but that was really about one or two players.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a collective team effort.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen us have such a solid team, and that's the key there. It's 6 weeks now before we've been saying Cresswell is finished. No one said that for 6 weeks. And it's kind of like we're now reduced to picking on a relatively new recruit because he isn't looking like Maradona after 4 matches, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
So that's the level we're at now. So very, very happy. I think we've got a bit further to go. But I would just temper tonight's performance with the calibre of the opposition. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Roy Hodgson 1 or 2 defeats away from the sack at Crystal Palace. I think if they continue to drift down the table, the Palace board might just say, do you know what? We can't afford to go down here. Because attracting players as a Premier League club is a lot easier than attracting players as a Championship club. And I think that's Roy Hodgson under a bit of pressure there now.
Yeah, well, we'll watch that one, of course. Roy Hodgson's team, no match for David Moyes, of course, one manager whose job certainly isn't under any pressure tonight, and the opposite, in fact, he's probably the safest manager out of anyone in the Premier League after West Ham beat Crystal Palace. I mean, we keep looking at that score. It's only 3-2, but it was a demolition job by the Hammers tonight. We absolutely outplayed. And kind of going back to that point, Pinky, I think we often criticise opposition fans for not giving us enough credit. When they said that they played poorly against West Ham, if West Ham did well. And I just wonder if you're not giving us enough credit tonight. I mean, Palace have had some good results, this year, pulled out the odd good result, and they were under par tonight because we didn't let them play, did we? And that's certainly the case, I think. But not the greatest side, but I get what you're saying. It's got to be 10. We're not playing Manchester
much the better team, don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
I just think this thing without supporters in the stadiums, there is a lot more space on a football field this season.
Yeah.
And we had the quality to exploit it tonight and the application to exploit it. My big gripe there with Crystal Palace tonight, I'm sweating more in the armchair here than half their team.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just putting a little bit of caution against what we've seen there tonight, because had we played like Palace did tonight, we'd have 500 pages on KUMB of absolute dogs abuse. We all know it because I'd write 400 of them. Yeah. Palace were poor, but we did what we had to do. And you could argue, better finishing, it's 6 or 7.
Yeah, very much. Well, we're going to look at the Palace Forum very shortly, and I'm sure there'll be a fair amount of dogs abuse being handed out by their fans after what they've seen tonight. But first of all, before we do that, we're going to go to KUMB.com and look at our forum and just see what the Hammers are saying over there tonight, Rio. I know I just took a brief look myself a few moments ago. It's very, very busy over there. Everybody trying to get on and post some congratulations, I would imagine, for what they've seen tonight. What's the pick of the post you're seeing so far?
It's nothing but gushing tributes about the way we played and the result. In what's been a pretty terrible year for everybody on this planet, West Ham fans, if you want to take a little bit of comfort and a little bit of heart, read the match thread of today's game it will cheer you up, because there's not one negative comment flying about the place. And normally everyone picks holes in the tiniest of details, but today everyone is on board. Just a few of the comments come across. Smuts has put, that result has proper flattered them. They look miles better with bats than are you buzzing around up top, though. I'm glad they come on so late. Thought we were superb tonight. We never stopped running. We hunted and broke in packs. And on another night, Antonio walks off with a match ball. Rice, Dawson, Oggy, Souček, Fornells were all great, and Ben Rama looked a real threat. Fourth is an amazing achievement. Sadly, though, I always think that the board are going to see it as job done and won't bring in the backup. We need to maintain it. Exiled in Cardiff put, Fornells was my man of the match. He makes a difference, and tonight he was superb in his play. If only he could finish. Craig 2609, as complete as performance as you would hope to see. Bar the goal at the end. Work rate was unbelievable from every man. Rice and Souček controlled the midfield from their first goal onwards. Big Mike was a nuisance, and other night would have had a hat-trick. Man of the match for me was Ben Rama. He hit a shot in the first half and always looked disgusted. From then onwards, he was more patient in his play and his creating. His work rate again was from a creative player. Tracking back, making tackles, he was absolutely fantastic. Moyes is really building the mentality of his club. See if subs bringing on the young lad up top. Long may it continue. Very happy Hammer. Tenbury, good performance against a pretty abysmal side. Could and should have had 6. Great performance from just about everyone. Benny looks more settled every game, and Vlad the Impaler had that bloke with a girl's haircut in his pocket all night. I could go on. A brand new member to the forum made his first ever post tonight. This is his second. And I'd like to say welcome aboard, mate. Keep on posting, please. Another 3 points, 4th in the league. I think the scoreline flatters Palace. We lost momentum in the end with the substitutions, but I hope Moyes is going to be able to get a player or two in before the end of the window, which will allow him to make more like-for-like substitutions. I'd love to believe the board will seize an opportunity for something great this season, but we know what they're probably thinking. Bonzo for Lagers, excellent entertaining performance. Good result even laying for their late second. No complaining. Hand a Dog, fantastic performance. Could have scored 6 easily. No one on that pitch did not give their all. Great job, boys. And that's another running theme. A lot of people are praising the work rate of our side tonight, and that's a joy to hear.
Yeah, very much so. Well, thank you, Rio. Some superb comments. Lovely to hear that from the fans. Everyone, as Rio said, they're on the same side for a change. No criticisms, which is absolutely amazing. Gnome, how are you getting on with David Moyes? Is there any sign of an interview?
Oh well, we're on speaking to him. No, I can't find any sort of video or audio of an interview at the moment. Stuff is beginning to filter through onto the BBC Premier League live page. We've got not Moyes but Souček. Just a couple of words from him. I'm very happy because our performance was very good. This is the performance that we wanted to show everyone, and I hope we can carry that on. Our dressing room is beautiful. I'm presuming he doesn't mean the Palace building, of course. And we have so much confidence. I say every time, it doesn't matter who scores. I'm just happy to help the team, which I know that's the sort of thing that players sort of always say, it doesn't matter who scores. But, after a performance like that was a good team performance, you can see those words actually having some sort of meaning for once. I'll keep an eye out for any comments from Moyes, as I say, because the telly people went straight over to West Brom, Man City, which we're 4 minutes in. Other results tonight so far was Newcastle 1, Leeds 2. Magpies not having a good time of it at the moment. I think that's their 7th defeat in a row.
Yeah,
something like that. So they did bring it. They were 1-0 down. They did bring it back to 1-1 at one point, but as Man City hit the post there. As I say, I'll keep an eye out if anything does come up and of any interest from the managers. They usually put it in. Score update: Southampton 1, Arsenal 0. Stuart Armstrong's just scored after 3 minutes.
nobody likes to see that. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame.
some match stats from tonight, the final match stats of the game before we move on to the Holmesdale net, just to launch into a bit of Schadenfreude at the expense of our Crystal Palace supporting fans. 54% to Palace, 46% to West Ham possession. Shots, Palace 6 shots with 3 on target. West Ham 17 shots with 7 on target. 3 corners to Palace, 4 to West Ham. Palace committing 9 fouls to West Ham's 8. I'm just waiting for the XG stats to come in. Nothing on that yet, but we'll come back to that in a little while. Yeah, as I said, we're going to dip over to Holmesdale.net now, which is a Crystal Palace forum, the equivalent of KUMB.com. I suspect, Pinky, the locals aren't quite as happy as we are right now. What are you seeing over there? And are you seeing the calls for Roy Hodgson's head?
Oh, yeah, plenty of them. I mean, here's a typical comment from N Wales Eagles, Landudno. Imagine that. You're from North Wales. The best option is to be a Crystal Palace supporter. That's when you know life's treating you not very fairly. But the individual's gone. David Moyes' side, total commitment. Roy's side, out for a stroll. Things have to change now, please. You know, it doesn't get much more straightforward than that. You know, you got here. Moving on to the next page of woe on here. What have we got here? The whole club is wrong and has been for a while. The age of our squad, the lack of decent signing and keeping Roy in charge. Our ambition is 17th place, and that after being in the Prem for 8 seasons now. An unacceptable lack of ambition in my eyes, and there are a few excuses. The Frank de Boer appointment was poor, as was keeping Pardew after the FA Cup final. You know, I mean, it just goes on. It's you know, Kenny Brown's left foot. Yeah, let's not forget we haven't just lost the game 3-1. It could have easily have been 5 or 6. This is what is most concerning. We're conceding goals at an alarming rate, and we aren't just being beaten. We're being completely outclassed in every department. Yeah, Rob Dave 2K. A good manager makes the sum greater than the individual parts. A good manager adopts their tactics. A good manager makes players better. What exactly is our manager, who considers himself as good as Ferguson, doing? So there's no love. There's no love here for Roy Hodgson. A 1-3 absolute hiding. 6, 7 or 8 wouldn't have been unfair. Shocker. You know, just all the way through, it is nothing but. There you go. Palazzo Vecchio. It should have been 10 goals for them. You know, I mean, I'm struggling to find a single positive comment about a single Palace player or their manager or Croydon or wherever, anywhere south of the river, really. It's they're kind of basically admitting that they've given up. 3-2 is unjust. Should have been 5 or 6 if Antonio was on it. Unfortunately, the scoreline will probably hide how poor we were, but they didn't use the word poor. You know, 2-3 just doesn't tell the gulf in the performances. It just let Roy off a bit. You know, I mean, it is a battering from their own supporters, and I suggest, Graham, you start on the opposition view before you go to bed tonight. You'll still be pulling nuggets out Sunday or Monday. I mean, it's just page after page of, you know, we are in seriously deep trough. Should Roy stay? You know, I mean, the one thing that's really leapt out at me here tonight was the 14 players out of contract in the summer.
Yeah.
So in terms of club management at a macro level, at a senior executive level, that's serious mismanagement on one scale. Dare I say it, maybe someone's planning for a wholesale change of ownership. Maybe someone is saying we're not going to put any more money into it this season because of the whole COVID thing. Maybe the Palace supporters are giving their board or their manager too much stick because 14 players out of contract, where no one knows when you can get a supporter back in the stadium, particularly at a club where the gate money probably matters a bit, as it would do at Crystal Palace. I don't think there'll be a whole lot of corporate down there.
Yeah.
might not be the worst position to be in, but you just get the feeling their supporters are going, we've had enough of this. Roy is definitely at his sell-by date. There's no question of that. And as I say, another 1, maybe 2 defeats, and I'd expect them to have the vacancy sign up.
Okay.
There's even one guy in here saying Pulis is a better option. So that's Frank Lampard and Tony Pulis. You're in trouble when they're the names being advanced.
I think the chances of Pulis going back to Palace, given the circumstances surrounding his departure, are pretty remote.
And just when you think the night's not going to get any better, Sam Allardyce's West Bromwich Albion are trading 1-0 to Man City. It's Palace are in all sorts of trouble down there. If I was Scott Parker at Fulham, I just might be saying to my players, do you know what? There's another club that's going to get dragged into it, lads. So don't give up here. Because, what you want when you're fighting relegation is you want 5 or 6 clubs, having to actually battle away and scrap and take points off each other, all those sorts of things. And so, I'd say the big winner tonight was probably Fulham, because for us, it's nice to be in the top 4, but this just nudges Palace in the wrong direction in a game that they might have fancied at home. They could get something tonight, and all they got was an absolute hiding from West Ham.
Yeah, they certainly did. Pinky, thank you for keeping an eye on the Palace Forum for us this evening and bringing us their woes, quite frankly. And as Pinky said, the opposition view on KUMB.com tomorrow promises to be a feast for anyone tuning in. So keep an eye on that. That will be live for you at some point in the morning. Gnome, interesting point made on the YouTube chat by one of our regulars, Hobo. Hello, by the way, to Elaine tuning in again. Our lucky charm. We've won every game since Elaine started joining us on the live chat. So stick with us, Elaine. You're bringing us good luck, clearly. Hobo Gnome says, to be fair, our dispensing of the poorer opposition is one of the biggest improvements West Ham have made this season. Strikes me as a really good point. We've often, well, for years, haven't we? We've always said that West Ham have the capacity to up their game against the bigger and the better teams. But when it comes to teams, floundering or in or around us in the league, we perform rather less well. Looking at the results this year against those teams, we've pulled off some good wins, beating Fulham. All the teams around us, Sheffield United going up there, beating Leeds, pulling off, decent results, beating Burnley, West Brom, the list goes on. And I think it's a really good point. I mean, would you agree with that? That's really been one of our biggest improvements this year. We've still gone out and performed well against the Leicesters and the Wolves, our peers, I guess. But, beating those teams really has been a huge contribution, has it not, to our, improved performance?
Yeah, I think you can track that back to when we came back after lockdown last season, and you look at the results. And I mean, we started to beat the teams that were of that ilk a little bit more. I think we didn't play very well against Burnley, but we gained confidence from the defeat of Chelsea, which, the Yarmolenko goal at the end there was just sort of like turned the switch on a bit. And then, when we needed it, we beat Watford, who, was a potentially tough game. Norwich was never going to be that tough, but we'd never played well up there. So it all helped, sort of thing. But yeah, even when we haven't played particularly well, I mean, the Fulham game we could quite easily have dropped 2 points at, but it's we're getting results, and the oft maligned, and as Pinky pointed out earlier on, the saying of winning is what I do. It's, well, I mean, Lord knows we all wish he'd started doing it a bit earlier in his career at West Ham. But hey, it's what he's doing. So I'm continually checking for any updates from the management. But
on that note, if I can just come in quickly there, I think David Moyes now has the best record of any West Ham manager in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken. I saw a stat
it doesn't surprise me, because since we came back off that lockdown and got our act together, and I think the turning point was the Chelsea game, where we'd been the better side all the game, and it was looking like another game we were only going to end up with a point from, which I think we'd have taken the point before the game, but the 3 points were well deserved, and it was, Lord knows what he says to them after games like that, but it should have been something along the lines of, you deserve that, and that's what you get against Chelsea. When you actually put something into it, and we took that attitude. Okay, there were a couple of little blips along the way, but the comment from Souček, it seems a good, happy dressing room. There seems to be excellent spirit. We mentioned earlier on the little symbolic thing about Rice going over to Noble. That's a team that's got a lot of time for each other.
Yeah,
and recognises things like that. And now it's 2 or 3 times I've seen Rice do that, and I say there was once that he didn't, which and it really was. If he'd stopped to do that, the game would have been over. But it's as I say, there are all these little signs that we're building up something, and another thing that's changed and that's improved, the injury list.
Yes,
I mean, we've got a good sort of squad if we can keep everyone fit. Now, traditionally, we've never kept anyone fit. Antonio is the place where we've got very little in the way of cover, and that is always the big worry. But it's January now. Usually, we've got sort of half a dozen on the sick at this point. But it's Arthur and Randolph was today. So whether or not it's been the medical team or a change in training methods or what, I don't know. But we need. I mean, God knows we need to keep everybody fit, because as we're getting sick into saying to we're blue in the face, we're only a couple of hands.
Gnome's
improved on that thing. Notwithstanding Antonio, it needed to have done. I've still got nothing from. Oh, hang on, I've got stuff now. I've got something from Hodgson.
Okay, well let's hear what poor old Roy's got to say about that pretty humbling defeat tonight.
We start off with chosen subject, the bleeding obvious. I thought we lost to the better team. Our first half performance was nowhere near as good as we expected to be. As a result, we found ourselves coming in at half-time 2-1 down. Second half, we lost it to a set play. And when you're 3-1 down, even though we had a bit of a spurt in that period, it's very hard to score 2 goals against a team of West Ham's quality. And they took the points deservedly. There's a bit of stuff about their new loan signing, Jean-Philippe Mateta, who wasn't around tonight. And we're not playing to the level that we want to play. So any player that we bring in, we're expecting it to show something more than the players that are being selected. It's up to him to stamp his authority. Asked about his next, how big the next 6 games are. Every game's an opportunity. Every game you want to see your team play well. Yep. All we can do is lick our wounds, make sure we dust ourselves for the next game, and do to Wolves what West Ham did to us tonight. So, not much he could say really. I mean, anything, any suggestion of bad luck or stuff not going their way, really would have been laughed at, I think. But just goals update. It's and from the real, nobody wants to see that. Arsenal equalised a while back against Southampton through Pepe, so that's 1-1 there. Still 1-0 Man City West Brom.
Okay.
Superb finish from Good. His name is, But just having a laugh at other managers. Steve Bruce said something like, "That's the best we played in ages." So I don't see him on a bad run.
Yeah.
But
Was
yeah,
it 8
I'll
games?
keep an eye out, as I say, for any more from. I think they've lost 7 in a row. I think we said, didn't we, Pinky?
7.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Horrendous form for Newcastle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never a happy place, is it, up there in the northeast, or at least it hasn't been since about 1996. It seems, when they were, Kevin Keegan would have loved it if they'd have pinched the title, but of course they never did, and they've never got close to it since. Rio, big game this weekend for West Ham, top of the table clash. We face a Liverpool team on Sunday. I think it's Sunday, who will go into that game where they're playing. Actually, they're playing this Sunday. They're playing Tottenham, of course, tomorrow, which is another interesting point because it means they'll have 24 hours less rest than West Ham will. But Liverpool going into that game tomorrow, only 1 win in their last 7 matches since they beat Crystal Palce 7-0. Funnily enough, they've only won once, and that was a 4-1 win against Villa. But draws against West Brom and Newcastle. Funnily enough, we're talking about Newcastle, drew against Manchester United in the league. Since then, they've lost to Burnley. Incredible result. Lost at home to Burnley, and then beaten by Manchester United in the FA Cup, as we know, at the weekend. Can we beat them this weekend? I mean, Pinky pointed it out, didn't he? That at this point last season, there was something like 33 points difference between the two teams. But, here we are a year later. And yeah, as I say, can we beat Liverpool this weekend? Is that a distinct possibility now, given the way West Ham are playing and also the way that they're playing?
Absolutely. I thought we was unlucky we were up at Anfield earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And since then, they're showing a little bit of vulnerability, which they haven't shown really for over a year now. Klopp's under pressure. He's cracking a little bit. I think the nerves are filtering down, particularly into their midfield and their backline, which is, I wouldn't say ravaged by injuries, but they've got enough injuries to make them think about things. And they're showing a lot of vulnerability in defence, which we can more than exploit. If we play like we did today on the front foot, why not? Other teams who are worse than us have shown they're vulnerable. They can be beaten. So there's no reason in the world why we can't go into Sunday's game and take today's performance as a benchmark in terms of attacking ability and go for it and actually have them. We're also due a penalty. If we're going to get a penalty for the first time this season, I'd like it to be against no one better than them, because they seem to get more than their fair share. So about time the tables turned. And
you might just crack in here because of doing some sort of pre-match research for the weekend, and I was having a look at the Liverpool Echo, which is it is the worst newspaper in the world. It really, really is. And if you read their match report, they were talking about there was an article about and it was like it was written by a supporter and not a very erudite one, going on about how Manchester United are always diving and how they get they cheated their way to the 3-2 win in the cup the other day, and how the referees always get. And it just thought, is this the Liverpool who haven't won an honest title in their lives? But if you ever want to laugh, have a look at the Liverpool Echo. It is a god awful paper. It really is. Even you get the impression that they put up the headline the other week about one of the things the government were considering was giving £500 to people forced to stay at home with COVID. You got the impression that headline was put up with a view to helping people claim, But
what are you suggesting, though? Terrible.
But no, if you want all your stereotypes confirmed about that city, just read the Liverpool Echo. It is hilarious. It's hilarious.
Okay, looking ahead to that game on Sunday, Gnome, what are you thinking? West Ham potentially could go into that game above Liverpool in the league now, which is a phenomenal turnaround, on this time last year.
Yeah, as Pinky said, we were we were so many points times 10 to the power something behind them last year. And now at the moment, as we sit, we're above them. I think we've got every chance of beating them. Even before tonight, and the fact that we've moved slightly above them. It was a game I was thinking that, if I were a West Ham player, I would think back to the defeat up there, where for long periods of that game we were the better team. We were stitched up by Salah's outrageous dive, and that really was the turning point. Up to that point, they didn't look like scoring, and that really sort of it hit us. And I would be saying, look, most of you played in that game. There you go. Have a look at that. That's how much you were on top for most of that game.
Yeah.
Go get them. I think we're potentially as good a side as they are at the moment because of the way they're playing. Now, if they play at their full potential, and you look at how they did last season, fine. That we're not in that bracket. Let's not pretend that we're at that level. But certainly the way they're playing, the way they've been playing at the moment, and certainly the way we've been playing at the moment, there's not an awful lot between those two sides. And we've shown in the past that we can turn them over. I just hope we just get an honest break at it. That's all I ask, because Lord knows over the years we don't against them. I mean,
yeah, for sure. It's big game, of course. Now, I mean, top of the table clash, isn't it? West Ham United versus Liverpool. Who'd have thought that just a year ago, Mr. Palermo? And do you agree with what Rio and Gnome are saying, that we've got a real chance of Klopp under pressure, David Moyes in charge of, say it how it is, we are the form team in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, and I think we've got every chance on Sunday. You touched on Liverpool playing Thursday night against Tottenham Hotspur.
Thursday, it's not tomorrow.
It's Thursday.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And they're at Tottenham. They've then got to come to us. So do they go home for a day and then travel back to London? You put in all the fatigue of travelling and what have you. They've got a relatively long injury list. Their forward line isn't exactly firing on all cylinders at the moment because they're moving midfielders into the back line, and the midfielders that are stepping into play in place of the regular midfield aren't quite as good. So they're not feeding the ball into the strike team as well they have. But I'm just thinking about that top sort of six generally, and the difference between them and us this season. And it comes down to one player. Each of them has got one special player more than we've got. And whether it's Manchester United with Bruno Fernandes as making the real difference, whether it's Man City with Phil Foden, who I think is the pick of their crop this year, making the difference, whether it's the evergreen Jamie Vardy at Leicester City making the difference, whether it's Son at Tottenham Hotspur making the difference. That's how close we are. If you took those players from those clubs and put them in a West Ham shirt and said you're playing for West Ham now, we'd be top. The gap has narrowed significantly, is the point I'm making this season. And this is why I say, to David Sullivan, be bold, be brave. Now is the time. Now is the time. He won't, of course. He'll bottle it. He'll get cold feet, and then you lose the moment. But it's all about moments. And for my money, Liverpool will rock up on Sunday. I think we can beat Liverpool. And then suddenly we're above them by right in the league table, not by dint of games played and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And that's a real statement. And I just think we are the elusive one player short. But then I'll just say, let me put it into you all. If we signed a top draw striker, if we could find the 50, 60 million pounds that we're going to need, that means we're not playing with Antonio, who we've described as being a real threat this season, or we end up changing our system. And therefore, to get that extra player in, we've got to sacrifice something or someone. And would that just disrupt the whole team performance at this point in time? And that's why it's such a difficult job to get from where we are now, just one or two places higher. And
Okay.
I'd like to think we're going to be brave and sign someone in the next 48 hours. We probably won't. And dare I say it, yeah, we'll beat Liverpool on Sunday, but we'll lose to some mugs in April, some no marks, and we'll finish probably in 6th and be just a bit disappointed. But I think Sunday, I think we can beat Liverpool. Absolutely.
Okay. I kind of disagree with you in terms of the sign. I think we will sign someone, but I'm fairly certain it's going to be a loan player or someone relatively cheap. I certainly agree that Sullivan's not going to put his hand in his pocket and pull out 50 million to buy the player that, as you say, could make the difference. But just looking back at your point you made there, Pinky, you spoke about Foden and Vardy and Son and Fernandes. Who's our equivalent at West Ham? Who's the one player that makes it tick?
It's Rice. Rice is
no.
no.
Not Rice.
I think it's Rice. Okay. Yeah. You can build an argument that says Antonio makes the real difference. You can build an argument, dare I say it, that says Souček makes the difference. But Rice and Souček play in a position that aren't going to win you many games. They'll stop you losing. They'll help you win occasionally, but they don't hurt the opposition enough. And that's why a player like Foden or Fernandes makes such a difference for the clubs that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. But those are the players that cost money, of course, to buy in the transfer market.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So where was I wrong then? None. Who should I have?
It's anyone but Rice because he's no good. Right?
Sorry, I've just woken up there and realised. Yeah, I'm trying to make a serious point here. Yeah, and you've absolutely done me there. I'm looking between the legs and the ball's been played through. Thank you, Gordon.
Gnome, how are we doing with David Moyes? Anything coming yet, or are we gonna...
still nothing? Something that Liverpool won't like to see, but Man City are 3-0 up against West Brom. Gundogan's got a couple. Cancelo got a cracker as well, which was allowed after a VAR check. That's just another team that are beginning to play streets ahead at a level ahead of what Liverpool are doing at the moment. And, it's they won't be relishing coming to the Olympic at the weekend. It's a case of, where's your title gone? Sorry, just checking just because the thing updated there, but still nothing from Mr. Moyes.
Okay. Well, it looks like we're going to have to wait for a bit later. I mean, obviously there'll be the regular updates on KUMB.com's homepage when we do get some content from David Moyes, and we'll post it there. But it doesn't look like we're gonna get that tonight, which is unfortunate because I imagine Mr. Moyes will be in absolute sparkling form in any media interviews he's giving this evening after his team produced.
Having said that, here he is.
Well, there we go.
Oh,
no, over to you then, David Moyes.
Okay. Right. Speaking to match of the day, we knew we had to start well. Palace had got a really good record of scoring early, and we were aware of it. So it was disappointing that we didn't start well. But to get a goal back was a big difference. We played very well, and I thought that we had another gear in us if we needed it. We passed it well, but I was a bit disappointed with the finishing. But overall, I'm pleased with how we played and the result. Mikel Antonio should have come away with the match ball, but he's won us games in recent weeks. So I hope he's keeping his goals for other games. He plays a big part to this team. He was asked how satisfying was it to look at the table, and he says, "Well, I've not looked at it since the game, but obviously being near the top is what I want. I want to manage a team up at the top and have a club to try and keep those standards up. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves and say we're going to make the Champions League. We'll just work as hard as we can." So pretty much what we said. Really, let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's just, disappointed in the fact that we didn't win that seven or eight or however many chances we had, and let's just ride the wave. So there you go.
Great. Well, I'm glad you managed to get that one in, Gnome, before we go off air. But isn't it good to hear the manager be slightly disheartened when you've gone away from home and won 3-2? A sign of good things at the club. I just want to point out,
I've got a bit more if you want.
Oh, okay.
Far away. Stuff from Craig Dawson.
Yes.
Defensively, Craig Dawson, we were really disappointed to concede 2 goals, or 2 jails, as it's spelled here on the BBC website. But it was a good performance from everyone. David Moyes works as hard on the training pitch, and everyone's enjoying working under him. We just need to keep this run going. We've got a difficult game at the weekend. Hopefully we can keep it going. So, yeah, we're enjoying ourselves, which again alludes to what we said. It's a good unit there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Noam. Thank you for bringing us up to date with David Moyes' latest comments there. I did just want to point out quickly that I said Liverpool would get an extra 24 hours. 24 hours less than West Ham. Of course, it will be 48 hours because they're playing Tuesday and getting this all wrong. They're playing Thursday, and it is only Tuesday. I was thinking it's Wednesday, but of course it isn't.
It's the derby that you wish both teams could lose. Tottenham, Liverpool, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. So West Ham will have, a distinct advantage there in terms of recovery time, and I'm sure Mr. Klopp will be pointing that out at some point, especially if the result doesn't go their way.
They had more recovery time over Christmas than all but about three teams. And the 3 teams were like Brighton, Palace, and Fulham, or something like that. It wasn't, So yeah, it's the usual thing. They'll complain when it suits them, but they won't have the leg to stand on.
No, certainly won't. And let's hope he is left complaining come Sunday evening when Liverpool travel to West Ham for their not their next game, because their next game's at Spurs, but the next game after that. XG stat I can give you for tonight's game. Of course, it finished West Ham 3, Palace 2, West Ham 3. XG stats, Crystal Palace 0.63 to West Ham's 3.3. That's the expected goals statistic. So Palace doing rather better than they expected to. But I suppose that's fair enough, given they only had 2 or 3 shots after scoring that goal right at the start. West Ham's XG 3.3 being borne out by the fact that we scored 3 goals. So fairly accurate there. Once again, West Ham restricting their opponent to an XG of less than 1, which is pretty damn good. Rio, should we be disappointed that we conceded 2 goals tonight? Gnomes know that doesn't really know what's going on there, but we'll get Pinky to explain it to you a bit later.
No, don't. I actually quite like being the only person on this thing who hasn't got a clue what an XG is, and I think I'd like to keep it that way.
Yes, Rio, should we be disappointed by the fact we've conceded a couple of goals tonight?
I think that we will be, and I think we've every right to be. So the first goal, we just won at the races when the game kicked off. It was sloppy, and after the run we've had, we've conceded only 1 in 5. Was it 1 in 6? I think they'd be absolutely gutted about that. Yeah, and the one at the end, we was 3-1 up. We'd absolutely battered them. The old boxing analogy, as mentioned earlier, the towel would have been thrown in ages ago. Yeah. So everyone was kind of switched off, and they're back in the dressing room, as Gnome said. So it's 2 lapses of concentration, really, which has cost. Well, which on another day could have cost us. Yeah. So I think as a unit, I think as a unit, Moyes would be looking at that, saying, you know what? If you want to maintain where we are in this league, if you want to improve as a club, we have to eradicate those kind of moments. But that is taking a little bit of gloss off of what was an absolutely amazing performance. But It's the only
yeah.
negative we've got tonight, isn't it? So,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't want to, pour cold water on what we've achieved here tonight. It's been a fantastic win, but I'm just sort of looking at that, thinking that we've had issues with West Ham conceding at the start of halves, especially the second half, lately sort of switching off after the interval. And, you look at that tonight, goal conceded after 3 minutes, goal conceded in the 6th minute of added on time. So, I just wonder if that's something we need to sort of still look at, is that consistency from the first minute to the 90th minute or the 96th minute or whatever. But I mean, I totally agree with you. I think, to be critical, there would be a case of picking holes where, there aren't any to necessarily pick from. But anyway, so one more thing I want to touch on before we do wrap up for the night. Sorry, no, were you signalling there, or do you want?
Yeah, I was just going to say, consider where we were just over 12 months ago, and what a mark of how far we've come in that 12 months. That we're sitting here talking about being slightly disappointed after winning a game 3-2. 12 months ago, we'd have sold our firstborn for a win against anybody. Never mind coming away with it and thinking we should have won that by a lot more. So, and it's healthy that, and David Moyes has said that. I mean, it's not just us saying that, but it's, it's being said. And just to cheer Peaky up, so it's just come up that Southampton are now 2-1 down to Arsenal. But, what a, fair play to Mr. Moyes that A, he's disappointed, we're disappointed. Okay, well, at the end of the day, that probably doesn't matter as much to a certain degree, but we're spotting this sort of thing.
Yep.
We know it's being looked at. So, so that was all. It was just as a sort of as a measure how far we've come. Yeah. I
mean, it's an excellent point. It's a completely valid point, of course. And
well, we're hanging on for then.
I mean, I suppose this is the thing about being West Ham supporters. We're always looking for things to be critical of, because we're not used to everything going so smoothly as it has been since the turn of the year. Anyway, this is a lovely stat. This is a great stat from our friend Xander on the KUMB.com forum. Xander writes, in 2021, Craig Dawson has scored more goals than Liverpool Football Club. What about that one, eh? Would have been a good one to end the night on, but there is one subject I want to chat about quickly before we do wrap up. Pinky, I'll come to you first on this one. Jesse Lingard. Looks like he's on his way to the club. What do you think about that one?
I mean, I'm assuming a loan.
Yeah, it looks that way. Yeah,
I'm not sure, if I'm honest here. The way I tend to view where we are currently, I'd only sign a player if he's better than what's in our first 11. So I think the way you advance up the table consistently is every player you sign has got to be good enough to displace a player that's already got the shirt. It doesn't mean he necessarily will, but he's got to be able to do so. Yeah. And that's just about applying pressure to the people with the shirt to say, do you know what? You just tail off in your performance just a bit, and we're giving that jersey to somebody else. And I'm not sure that Lingard is better than what we have at this point in time. And therefore, he falls into the category of pair of legs just as we start to run out of them, kind of thing.
Okay.
So as a short-term stopgap, I can see something in it. But really, and thinking further ahead to the summer, I just want us to adopt that mentality of, if they're not good enough to go into the first team, don't sign them. Yeah, because I touched on it last week. Forever, we've been willing to compromise, square pegs in round holes, because he can do a job. Well, we don't want that. We want people who are masters of their craft and good enough to say, dare I say it, who's going to put pressure on Declan Rice? That's how good teams get better, is they look at the best player in their team and say, we'll go and sign a better player. Jesse Lingard isn't in that category for me. So squad filler, you're going to run out of legs at some point, and that's what he's there to do.
Okay.
But I just hope it isn't a sign of the long-term thinking of the club.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you. And thank you, as always, Pinky, for all your contributions throughout the evening. It's been great chatting to you, as always, throughout the night. No, Jesse Lingard, yes or no for you?
He's not getting a game at the moment, is he, at Old Trafford, which sort of tells you something. Where would you put him in our team? Where would you actually physically, what position would you put him in? I mean, he's a sort of vague midfielder sort of player that's, you're always vaguely aware when he's playing because you hear the name. But, he's one of those players that, by and large, when he's on the pitch, he's often, he might do a job and put in a shift, but he's not someone you sort of think, Telly's coming on. Oh, let's have a look. Is Lingard playing? Oh, this would be interesting, sort of thing, like you do with a lot of other players. So, I mean, I think at the moment I'm inclined to put a fair bit of trust in David Moyes, and if Moyes thinks it's a good deal and that the signing will improve things, then given what we've seen this season and where we are, I'd be happy to go along with it, but it wouldn't be somebody on my personal radar. But then, I don't think I'm allowed to pick Messi, am I? So,
do you think this is a Moyes signing then? I mean, because we know obviously they worked together when Moyes was at Manchester United, so he will know the player.
Yeah, but for sure. And I think if the situation is that Moyes wants him, and if Moyes doesn't want him, I think Moyes has earned himself enough clout there now at the moment to say that's a player I want or that's a player I don't want. And it's just Man City have just gone 4-0 up against rather hapless West Brom, who must be wishing they were Wolves at the moment. I'm sure Lingard won't be coming to I almost said the bowling there, to the Olympic if Moyes doesn't want him. So if Moyes wants him, then I'm happy to go along with that at the moment.
Okay, so trust in Moyes, says Gnome. Gnome, as always, thank you very much for your contributions tonight. Been great chatting to you again throughout the evening, and thank you for getting the opposition's name right tonight throughout the game as well.
Don't worry, won't happen again.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Rio, finally, Jesse Lingard came through the Manchester United youth system. Plenty of first team experience there, played for England plenty of times. Great signing for West Ham, surely.
I have got huge reservations about it. On a personal level, I've never really rated him. Added on to that, of all the places that we need to bolster our squad and strengthen, where Lingard plays is not one of them. It's probably the area that we least need to strengthen in. The other two things, we're an incredibly happy camp. We look together as a unit. We look really, really happy as a squad. Will someone like Lingard, whose disappearance from the Man United side has been down to some personal issues, will he come in and disrupt that? Because I do not want that. You do not want to disrupt a happy camp, and I fear that Lingard potentially could do that. My final reservation is history is littered with us taking off cast-offs from the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool and then failing miserably. And I just think it'd be another one added to the list. I really don't think it's a necessary signing. I mean, if Moyes wants him, fine. Like Gnome, you've got to trust him. He's done a marvellous job so far. I'm not going to criticise that. But I really don't think he's the player we need in the position we need. And I don't want him coming in and disrupting things when everyone looks so united and happy.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to think of a player we've brought from Manchester United who's been a real success at West Ham since Stuart Pearson. And
yeah, exactly.
Anybody? Yeah.
Funny enough, that was the first name that came in my head just as you were saying that. So,
Yeah, Milner might have done, but
yeah. He was sold to us. Pearson was sold to us with in the knowledge we were taking a bit of a punt on the grounds that he had iffy knees. And I mean, this is back in the day that when you had a knee op, it wasn't keyhole surgery, and you know, you were, the second you had a knee operation back then, you were living on borrowed time as a player. So, but even then, he did well considering. But you know, he was injury hit. I'm struggling to think of.
It's not just us, though, is it? History is littered with players who leave bigger clubs like that.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Ronaldo, etc.
Yeah.
Fringe players leaving the big clubs never go on to achieve anything anywhere else, because they thought, "Oh, I've made it at Manchester United. I made it at Liverpool."
Yeah. Look at Benteke.
No. Benteke.
Yeah, well, there's loads, isn't there? There's tons of.
First registered when he was walking off.
yeah, it's true. I agree with you, Rio. I mean, to me, if they're not good enough for Manchester United, they're not good enough for West Ham. You know, we're still a Premier League team, and Pinky, I can see you laughing, but you know, I think the point's sound. You know, the reason they're getting rid of them is not because they're a first team player. They're not considered good enough for the first team squad, are they? I mean, that's why Lingard's going.
I've spoken many times in the past about not signing players on the way down in their career structure.
Yeah,
because of the areas that Rio's just touched on there. You know, they're on the way down.
Yeah.
Generally, I'd look for players who are on the way up, who would see that they've actually, or who you can say to, you've got something to prove coming here, because do you know what? We're the big noise. We're West Ham United, and for you to get here, you've got to earn the right to stay here. Sometimes you sign players from clubs that are so-called bigger clubs.
Yeah.
They think, well, I'm the great I am, and you're lucky to have me.
Absolutely.
For all that, Moyes just might be looking at this and going, I need an option to Lanzini. Yeah, as an attacking midfielder. He might just say, between now and the end of the season, he might be saying to David Sullivan, maybe Lingard, as a lone player, maybe he could chip in with 4 or 5 goals. You know, they're the goals that Lanzini might not be providing at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And just say, do you know what? For the cost of his wages and maybe a small loan fee, let's see what we can do here. And so if the manager wants him, I can understand it. Then you say back him. But it's generally my rule of thumb is they have to be good enough to start in the first team. That's the starting point, because that's how you get stronger. So we'll see how it turns out. I mean, I think he will arrive. But I just feel that we need an out-and-out finisher more than anything. And you know, you look at that tonight and you've got, Antonio should have got home with the match ball, but he didn't. And that's the point.
Yes, I suppose if we had one of those in the team, it could have been 5 or 6. But anyway, we're not going to complain tonight, are we? It's been a great... And of course, the other point about Lingard is, Pink, is you're right. I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, you want to bring young, hungry players in. Lingard's 28 years old, and you know he's pretty much at his peak in terms of football. But a youngster, he certainly ain't, is he? You know, we're a year and a bit away from his 30th birthday. So, but of course, as Gnome says, and I totally agree. In Moyes we trust. You know, he's not put a foot wrong since coming back to the club just over a year ago, and he's doing wonders at the moment with the squad he's got. And of course, it is a small squad, diminishing by the week, with a couple of players having gone already in this transfer window, and we're still waiting for some to come in. It looks like Lingard is going to be the first of those. Whether or not a striker follows, we shall see, and we'll certainly find out by next week anyway, when the transfer window closes. Rio, thank you for your contributions also tonight, my friend. Been great chatting with you as always, and also for finding us those difficult stats that I keep throwing on you at the last minute. So thank you very much. Couple of suggestions actually for Man U players that we've brought in. Chris Mulhall mentions Teddy Sheringham, fair play. Very good player, you know, in the autumn of his career at West Ham. But as for Mark English's Roy Carroll and Nick's Ravel Morrison, I'm not so sure about that. Interestingly, Alex Ferguson said a lot of good words about Jesse Lingard, as he did with Ravel Morrison. Mark English also mentioning Lou Macari, who came in and no one's ever going to convince me that Lou was a bad manager. I just think it just didn't work out for him at the time, and that was his own fault, I guess. But brought some very good players to the club, of course. That's it for tonight. It's been a fantastic night for West Ham. We've beaten Crystal Palace by 3-2. It could have been 7 or 8. Utterly dominant, said Pinky in his summary of the match at the end of the final whistle, and that's exactly what happened. It was never in doubt. West Ham fell behind after 3 minutes, but goals from Thomas Souček in the 9th and 25th minute, followed by Craig Dawson header in the 65th minute, put West Ham well ahead, 3-1 ahead before Batshuayi scored in the 7th minute of added on time to give a sheen of respectability to the scoreline that Palace never really deserved. They were thoroughly outplayed by a completely informed West Ham United, who are up to 4th in the Premier League. Let me repeat that. West Ham are 4th in the Premier League in the Champions League spots right now, above Tottenham, above Liverpool, above Chelsea, above Arsenal, and all those other half-rate teams that are struggling this season. It's Liverpool on Sunday. It's a big test. Could be a fight for a Champions League spot. Who knows? We shall find out very soon. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream. It's been great having you with us as always. If you haven't done so already, subscribe down there, somewhere around there, to be notified when we're on air in future. My thanks to my team here tonight, the rest of the team, to the Pink Palermo, to Rio, to Gnome, and also to David Moyes for making us all very, very happy hammers tonight. Come on, you irons.
Come on, you irons.